Hello, and welcome to the first episode of a new series doing War Plan Orange. I know a lot of people who've done War in the Pacific, Admiral's Edition. Great game, love it. This one's a little bit more primitive, which is unfortunate, but it's one that I find very interesting, and I'd like to play it along with you guys. So here we are, main menu for War Plan Orange. I've gone through, I've adjusted things. I've played a little bit on my own to get used to the game and the differences from War in the Pacific. And I think I mentioned it on the other one. It's set in the 1920s in a fictional war between Japan and the Allies. Just going through, making sure I have everything set to the way I want them. Before heading into combat reports, I want to do my own submarines, plane move radius, set all. I just finished eating lunch. If you saw the Wolfpack series, I literally ate lunch, steeped a cup of tea, which is sitting on my desk with a Stroop waffle on top. Delightful if you've never tried it. So still clearing my voice a little bit from lunch. So I've done some thinking about the scenarios as well. We have the historic 1922 to 1926, which is extremely primitive. Like, the aircraft are almost comical. And you get blimps and stuff. But getting intelligence on what's going on in the Pacific is actually pretty difficult. I have not played any of the other ones. The 1926 one is the historic one. If the battle were to start in 1926, then what would that look like with what was built? Then there's this other one that I really want to try, which is a 4.5-year hypothetical war in 1926 with the never were designs. It assumes that the naval treaties never happened and that they started making the new battleships that the naval arms race was engaging in. So there's an 18-inch South Dakota, a Key class, a G3. I find this super interesting in a way that War in the Pacific is not, since it's exploring this hypothetical. Not just the hypothetical of a fictional war in the 1920s, but also the hypothetical of, hey, these were ships that were never built. And I really kind of want to do that just to see how crazy it gets. So I am going to start with this. If for some reason there's a mass outcry and you all want to see this one, the historical 1926, I'll go back and restart it, but you'll at least get a taste for what this game is about if you've never heard of War in the Pacific or War Plan Orange. I will pull this up so you can read it if you want to. Or actually, I'll go ahead and read it since I'm not fully up to date on exactly the parameters of the scenario. It's been a long time since I looked at this, since I've been playing the 1922 scenario just to get used to the game. With the Washington Conference doomed, war was a very definite possibility. Like the powder keg of Europe in the 1910s, it was only a matter of time before it exploded. In March 1922, the Japanese officially suspended negotiations with the United States. On May 30, 1926, the Japanese issued a letter to the American government officially declaring a state of war. While the Japanese did not declare war on any other nation, the British began to deploy forces to India to protect Commonwealth interests. There are 5 main fleets available to the Allies at the beginning: the U.S. Battle Fleet and Reserve Fleets at San Diego, the U.S. Asiatic Fleet and China Station, based in Shanghai and Manila, and the Royal Australian and Royal New Zealand Navies. As the Supreme Allied Commander, it is your duty to hold the Pacific and retreat only where you have to. Hold the coaling stations of Pearl Harbor, Midway, Wake, and Guam, and use your fleet to retake and hold the Philippines. With the Pacific in your control, attempt to blockade the Japanese islands and force a decisive Jutland battle between the US and Japanese fleets. With the Japanese fleet destroyed, unconditional surrender would follow. At this point in naval warfare, the aircraft carrier is still an experimental weapon. Don't use your battleships to the exclusion of your aircraft, and don't use aircraft to the exclusion of the battleship. A ship so powerful she will fear God and dread not. Welcome to War Plan Orange, Dreadnoughts in the Pacific 1922 to 1930. Be prepared to enter a time in history where wars were decided by the guns of dreadnoughts, not the bombs of the aeroplane. War Plan Orange covers the hypothetical naval war and assumes some points of history were different. Paragraphs with an asterisk denote what War Plan Orange assumes. This campaign, set in 1926, assumes that as a result of the Washington Treaty not being signed, the world powers eventually clash. This scenario includes never were designs, ones that probably would never have been completed, treaty signed or not. For the Japanese, this includes a natural evolution of the Tosa Amagi design, and for the British, a keen departure from traditional battlecruiser building. For the United States, it would represent a ship bristling 18-inch guns, a feat not attempted since the Furious was originally completed. But could these super dreadnoughts have any major effect on a war, or were they just imaginative follies? War Plan Orange is based on both War Plan Orange 2 and War Plan Orange 3, and as such, certain areas will become crucial. As an aside, War Plan Orange 2 and War Plan Orange 3 are variations of the US war plan in the Pacific should a war with Japan have occurred, which they started developing back in the early 1900s and constantly updated all the way up to World War II, which is actually part of why MacArthur holed up and retreated, giving up most of the Philippines and basically setting his stand on the Bataan Peninsula. So that's exactly what War Plan Orange called for at the time. Mistake though it was in hindsight. Back to the briefing. The Philippines, the sea lanes, and even atolls for air bases are all of vital importance. War Plan Orange, among all things, represents a clash of ideas. In War Plan Orange, dreadnoughts and World War I tactics will meet the new carrier and the airplane. But here, both have a fighting chance. Will it make a difference? You decide. So here we are at the interface. It is May 31st, 1926. Oh, I love stroopwafels. I'm going to do an overview of forces, starting in Alaska, heading down the west coast. This is the United States Navy base force. Typically leave those in the base that they are supporting. They're usually there for a good reason. Now in Anchorage, we have the Western Department, Engineers, an A Division or Regiment, Coastal Defense Regiment, and for the 9th Corps area, a base force. These are combat engineers. Battalion. These are the base force. Includes combat engineers, but has a lot of support, aviation support, marine squads. It's all base defense. Whereas these are meant more to support combat. And 55mm coastal defense guns, and 3-inch AA guns, and some machine guns. Okay, we have as far as a number of transports. AKs being transports, regular transports. APs being I'm trying to remember what they are now. Think of them as personnel transports. Okay, there we go. I found what I was looking for in the manual. An AP is indeed a personnel transport. It uses 1 capacity per squad, 3 capacity per supply point, whereas an AK is a transport that uses 1 capacity for 1 supply point, but uses 6 per squad of infantry. And the other thing I was looking for was the military abbreviations. AP is indeed troop transport. AK is cargo. So we have 1 troop transport, which I might just leave up here. And a bunch of other transports, which I will probably move to the... I'm going to move all of these. I'm going to do orders as I go. There's a lot to do with the first turn. Less as you go along. And we want transports and all of our fast transports or cargo ships we are going to send to home base Pearl Harbor. I want to keep the troop transport there because likely we may move these engineers in this AA unit at some point in the future. The other transports I'm kind of leaving there. Actually, I kind of don't want to leave them there. Like, I have no reason to keep them here. So I'm going to take the slow ones, I'm going to move them down to home base at Mare Island, San Francisco. And those will be kind of the lifeline for the Pacific, moving out from West Coast locations. But I'm going to start at Mare Island. And they will move supplies out to Pearl Harbor and then on to elsewhere. Then we want to form... Do we? I think we're going to leave the transport there. We have the Minesweeper, which I'm going to take a look and see what the stats on this are. Swallow. 2 3-inch, some depth charges. Yeah. Pretty much used for sub-chasing. Get her up and running. Environment not allowed. No auto disband. Okay to refuel. I'm going to set her to her ASW duties. Actually, probably in the approach into Anchorage. She'll probably return back to Anchorage at some point in the future when she runs out of fuel the first time, and then she'll just patrol in here. That's fine. Base Force, Base Force, Canadian Infantry Brigade, and a Base Force. Which once we get some political power, we can use that to reassign them to a mobile command. Nothing like a good cup of tea. Like a lot of these Canadian regiments, same with the Australians, the Dutch, and the French, and the New Zealanders, they're locked into a command Canadian military, and they cannot leave the borders of the area they're responsible for. So you have to use political power to assign them to another division or another command so that they can be moved out. So these are brigades we can use in the future. Although I might go ahead and move them. Like, actually, I might not be able to. Let's see, are they completely locked? Destination hex, Vancouver. Okay, they will march to Vancouver. It'll take them a long time, much more than it would at sea, but I'm not sure I can actually load them into a transport. I'm going to form a surface combat fleet involving the 3 Canadian ships, which I do have full authority over. I'm going to send them to Pearl Harbor. Return to base, retirement allowed, and they will auto-disband once they get there and be used as part of our pool. Now we do have Royal Canadian Air Force planes. We have Airco de Havilland 4 fighter bombers, which we will put on training. At 70, Gigas 14, we'll do 60. And we have de Havilland 9A level bombers. That just a stretched. This is so early in aviation that I'm not as familiar as I would like to be on some of these. Those are very similar. I can already tell you, having done the 1922 start, like, this is actually useful. A lot of the 1922 ones, they go from a radius of 1 to 2 hexes. It's not much. A lot of them are limited to like 150 miles. That, and they use like 25-pound bombs. They're hardly a threat even to troops. Not that they aren't, but they hardly are. They also are at fatigue 15. 2 submarines will form a sub-patrol. I want to split up all my subs to start, or leave them grouped for now. Kind of just moving them around at the moment. But I think I'll leave them separate. Subs tend to do better individually. And that'll be a lot more important once we get into the Asiatic fleet. Turn to Pearl Harbor. They have the range for that. Now I'll take care of all those ships. And we have Seattle, which has an artillery regiment that we can bring out to Hawaii. And then a bunch of 9th Corps stuff that I think gets locked here. We'll find out in a second. Because we're going to form a transport group. Actually, yeah, let's just do the AP. The Midio. We'll go to load only troops. Yeah, and the only one we can load is the 9th Corps. Maximum load 4,000. We have 1190. Because actually, I don't think the APs are very good at loading artillery. They'll do well the troops, but the artillery, they're a little less efficient than a transport. Return to Pearl Harbor, retirement allowed, will auto disband, and unload cargo at destination. An AR is a repair ship, and the AE is a ammunition ship. I was about to say Collier, but that's not true. Pyro, what a great name. One of the big things you'll note if you're familiar with War in the Pacific is there's system damage, flotation damage, and fires. There is no engine damage. That is not separate. So any system damage is a reduction in speed. It's a little bit obnoxious because just tootling around in the Pacific, you'll slowly lose your speed. Okay, so we have a tanker that we are going, two tankers actually. Take both of them. And I believe Seattle has an abundance of fuel. I'm going to load them with fuel. Set the destination as Pearl Harbor. Unload cargo, retirement allowed, and then they'll come back here. Actually set auto disband. That should take care of that. Then we'll form a new task force. Transport. We'll get all of our fast transports. Not that fast, 12 knots. They will load with supplies. They will head out to Pearl Harbor. Unload, retire, and then disband. Then we have 3 slow transports which will leave here. Fast ones are taking all the supplies Hawaii is going to need for the immediate future, and these ones will do the slow boating of additional supplies later. We have the USS Charleston. Small heavy cruiser. That will be of great use in the Pacific, so we'll set them to head to Hawaii. Once there, they will auto disband and they'll get repaired. That takes care of Seattle. Have coastal defense, a bunch of different forts, various kinds of guns. And then we have a base. I think we have any others in Canada. Nothing in the back. It's an Army Air Force base. And then a lot of our stuff is in various locations on the West Coast. This is going to take a little bit. Oh, that's nice. 1922 scenario. There's a ton of ships in San Francisco getting major refits. They have tons of system damage. It takes them a month to be ready. Not that we can't send them out anyways. Oh, there's your Collier. We're doing replenishment at sea. A few more personnel transports that we're not going to move. The old and aging Oregon. trying to remember. I've been listening to an audiobook recently called The Admirals, going over kind of the history from a brief overview of their childhood through the Naval Academy at Annapolis, on up through the ranks until they the only 4 people to hold the rank of 5-star admiral in the U.S. Navy. You're looking at Halsey, Nimitz, Leahy, and King. And so it kind of goes through all of them, and I know one of them was on an old pre-dreadnought. I'm trying to remember which one. I know Leahy was during the Spanish-American War. I don't think it was the Oregon, though. So what are we looking at here? Let's get the transports out of the way. That'll be easy. Form a new task force. Get our tankers. EM Story. Pretty sure I set these tankers up here as... Oh no, they're just going to drop off some. We have enough tankers out in Hawaii. We have none. So I might be... 2 tankers, 8 tankers. So yeah, we'll aim to have about 2 in each of these locations. As you can see, there's tons of fuel and supplies in all of the West Coast ports. Let's set your home base to Pearl Harbor. Unload, auto-disband, bring fuel with you. She'll stay out there. Meanwhile, we'll get some transports. And that'll be... So we probably should do the APs. There's one. Yeah, that should be all. Only 3. Let's do load troops. None to load. I'm not surprised. I have tons of artillery out here, some engineers, some AA regiments. Some extra engineers. We actually have an infantry regiment. We have an engineer aviation battalion. That we can assign out, so we can go pick those ones up. Then what else do we have on the West Coast? Yeah, everything else we're going to have to reassign. We actually don't have much to do with these personnel transports. I am going ahead and send them to Pearl Harbor. They will load supplies. And then and they will auto disband. I want to have an AP here. No. So we want to take these APs. We want to form a new transport. Done. Go down to the already assigned ones. We're going to use the Ruth Alexander. She's slower. Going to be part of this new one. Set her home base for LA. Or she will not disband. And we'll go pick up that, what was it? Oh yeah, Engineer Aviation Battalion. We'll bring her out to Pearl Harbor, since that'll be our staging point. Then we have a boatload of regular transports. we will grab Braskin, Steel Exporter, Navigator, Seafarer, bunch of Lucan Box, Lahaina, Admiral Cole. We'll grab the Sapolga because she's slow. Not. She's damaged. That's why she's slow. She'll sit here and repair. All these will grab supplies. And we'll send them out to Pearl Harbor. Auto disband. Form a new task group. Transport. Sort by type. We've got all of our transports. Oh, actually, no, we don't. We have our slower ones. But I'll leave those for now. We have Collier. And we have AS is submarine tender. Which we might want to leave that here if there's a bunch of submarines here. Load supplies, turn to Pearl Harbor, auto disband. We have 3 submarines here, none of them damaged. So we will be moving the submarine tender out. Send them as a transport. Actually, she is getting repaired, so we'll leave her alone. That means we can do sub patrol. S-15, old S-boat. Turn to Pearl Harbor. Another S-boat. Turn Pearl Harbor. And a final S-boat. Return Pearl Harbor. Alright, what else do we have that we have not assigned yet? Slow transport's not a big deal. The battleships won't be ready for a little bit. We have the Wisconsin and Kentucky BB 1917 class. So these are some of the ones that were built because there was no naval treaty, I think. I would think they would have an actual class name if they'd actually been built in real life. This was their designation before they were discontinued or scrapped. Hmm, 45 Mark 1s. Speaking of the main armament of the ship, the older 16-inch gun for the US Navy. Have no undamaged. We can bring out the Birmingham and an escort of destroyers. Send this group as one as well when they're ready. These ones will head out to Pearl Harbor. Return. And that takes care of here. Oh yes, the squadron. Javelin 4 level bomber. It's part of the 9th Corps area, so we can't actually reassign it yet. It's 60 points to change. And I don't really feel like changing it. This airplane is not going to be of vital interest right away. As we get down, we get to more transports and an AD. Right, like the submarine tender is an AS, AD is a destroyer tender. So no reason to keep them here. We'll have use for them out in the Pacific. Couple fast tankers, Admiral Chase and Wiley. Take care of those two first. Tankers. Whoops. Tankers. Done. 2 tankers. Load fuel. Stay here. Auto disband when you get back. Unload in Pearl Harbor. Form a new task group. Transport. Send our destroyer tender by herself to Pearl Harbor. Auto disband, return. Then we'll get our other transports. Fast ones. We'll leave the Argus. That's a slower transport. These will all return to Pearl Harbor and disband. And then we have the bulk of what we're going to find for aircraft. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Training 60. And we're going to want to do the same thing here. You can take a look, see what they all are as I'm going through them. We have the de Havilland 4 Fighter, the de Havilland 4 Fighter, and the de Havilland 4 Level Bomber. Same aircraft. The difference is in that how they upgrade and what they will upgrade to. I don't recall as to allow replacements, which is fine. Way to set the upgrade, it's probably this one. But that is actually an upgrade to the de Havilland 4 Level Bomber, and then you can use that. So it's like this branching aircraft squadron that you can change what it's actually doing. Then we have the Marine Escort Fighter. Bad way of describing it, but it's a Marine flown fighter. That, and I think some of the squadrons, they can actually be shifted over to land-based ones, Army fighters. Yeah, like the Hawk. And you can go that upgrade path, but once you've chosen, it's done. You have chosen. We have carrier-borne bomber squadron. Level bomb. Carriers? That's just weird. The second squadron thereof. Set them to train. Did this one. And we have Martin NBS 1 Level Bomber, which I know in the 1922 campaign, super useful because what does it carry? 2,000-pound bombs. Those actually do damage to ships. These things were actually awesome. But you look, normal radius, 1. That's the problem. A lot of these aircraft are just so old. Then we have the flying boat for patrol. Oh, we get 2 in this startup. I've never done the 1926 scenario, nor have I done the fantasy 1926 one. Then we have this mess. This is going to take a little bit to sort out. A lot of it is repaired, only minor refits to a lot of it. That's good news. Start with the tankers. We're going to assign 2 to Mare Island. Actually, I might do something weird here. Sort this out. Get 2 standard tankers. Set their home base for Mare Island. We will load them with fuel. Auto-disband them. Set them for Pearl Harbor. So they will load for fuel in San Diego, head to Pearl Harbor, unload, and then retire to San Francisco. And we'll get the rest of the tankers. Or actually, no, we need 2 more. Armadillo and Anacostia. We will load with fuel, auto-disband, set home base, San Diego, destination, Pearl Harbor. That'll be a bunch of tankers, 8 tankers of fuel from all of the West Coast ports. Alright, so we have those. Now we'll get Clegg, Admiral Williams, Corumba, and Bushendale. Bishopdale. Those will also load with fuel. Home base in Pearl Harbor. Turn, auto-disband. And then we'll do the same thing with the various transports. So we have a mine layer. That was the ML that we just breezed past. We have our 2 destroyer tenders. I don't think we have a ton of destroyer. Actually, we do have a ton of destroyers actually repairing. Take all the 12-knot transports. Load with supplies. Turn to Pearl Harbor, auto-disband. Then we'll get the colliers. Do the same thing with them. We'll have the repair ship, which is actually repaired. We'll leave it here since it will help. Have a couple submarine tenders, but I don't think we have a lot of submarines here right now, if any. We'll leave them for now. We'll just send all the you want to call them oilers, the colliers. Turn Pearl Harbor, auto-disband. What do we have for subs here? We have 12 subs. Disable all repaired and ready to go. No refits. Man, the US Navy feels a lot more prepared for war in the 1926 scenario. So we can transfer ships, type, head down and add in our 2 submarine tenders. I'm going to leave the transports here, the APs, troop transports. I don't think we have anything else we need to worry about. Sort by type and location. We have the destroyer tenders, which are repairing destroyers. We have the repair ship, which are repairing ships. We have the troop transports, and then we have the slow cargo ships. Yeah, that's it for them. So instead, we will get our subs sent. S-24. No, not Mare Island. We want it in Pearl Harbor. Earn Pearl Harbor. Form new task force. S-25. Earn. S-26. Return. S-27. Return. S-28. S-29. And then the low S's, S4. These ones being longer ranged and faster. S7. S8. This is saving me trouble later. I could send them as one big group of submarines, but then I'd have to break them apart. And Wolfpack tactics don't work very well in this game. Then we have surface ships. We have plenty of ships, good condition. Got all the standards. Got the old Connecticut and Missouri. We have the Lexington and Saratoga as battlecruisers since they were not converted to carriers per the Washington Naval Treaty. We will take Omaha and the Milwaukee. And four random destroyers. Turn Pearl Harbor, disband. Another surface group, I'm going to take all the standards. Actually, I'll take 4 at a time. Guess I shouldn't. Just group them all together. There's a maximum of 25 ships in a group. Take the Charlotte, Frederick. Yep, 25 ships. Turn Pearl Harbor, disband, form a new group. Surface. Take the Louisiana, the Connecticut, and the Missouri. Bunch of destroyers. Turn Pearl Harbor, disband. Form another group, and this one will have the Lexington, the Saratoga. Many destroyers as we can cram together. Return. Oop, not set home base. Return. Disband. And hopefully it's just one more, I think. The light cruisers. We have a bunch of minesweepers. We probably want to send out to Pearl Harbor. Don't know as they have the range. Actually, let's break that into ASW. Except for the broken one. Probably actually just refitting. Pearl Harbor. Return. Yeah, I thought so. So we're going to need to transfer from another group. Set the mission to transport. Transfer. And we will steal one of... We'll steal the Exmoor. Suppose I should use a collier rather than a transport. But we'll load them up with fuel. And the minesweepers will resupply off of that ship. And auto disband. That should actually take care of all the ships in this harbor. Oh, well, we do have the seaplane tenders. I might leave them here because they'll pick up the aircraft, box them up, and we can send them on the seaplane tenders. And we have the Langley, which already has her contingent of aircraft. Fighter 1, which we'll set to training. And Torpedo, which we'll set to training. Considering that, let's form a new task force. This one, air combat. It will include Bunker Hill and Ticonderoga. Why were they not included in the other one? Now I gotta look at these. Especially since I'm not familiar with all of them because they're not necessarily real. They were never completed. That's okay. I don't mind using them together. Grab the Langley, which is slow since she's a converted coal tender, if I remember correctly. We'll grab the Bunker Hill and the Ticonderoga, escort her, along with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 destroyers from Task Force 1044. Probably should have stolen them from the other one, but eh. They will, shocking, head to Pearl Harbor. Disband. Okay, now we're looking at a relatively small group. We have the mine layer, San Francisco, some tenders, repair ship, slow transports, and the seaplane tenders. Let's get that. The mine layer, yes. San Francisco is fine. Let's see if we can get her out to Pearl Harbor without any trouble. Send her as a transport. Minesweeper. Right, she's a mine layer, so we can't put her in a transport group. Doesn't have to be a mine layer group. It just works. Auto disband. Turn to Pearl Harbor. Okay, that takes care of the West Coast. With that, I'm running a little short on time, and this episode went a little bit long, but that's okay. We got through with the West Coast. I promise you, yes, promise, that after the first few episodes, this actually gets a lot faster and you start generating turns. Just getting everything, all the wheels in motion at the start, takes a while. We're going to go ahead and save this. You can see my other game. Use slot 8. And with that, thank you for staying to the end. Please let me know what you think. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time. Take care.